Well, another day on the Stroker's Light project. Now, these mannequins that are going on top of the roof, they have an issue with, if I mount them onto the flat roof and drill a hole, I can do that and seal it. I like to use through the roof silicate, which works really well, but I can't move the lights very much if I do that. So I've come up with a solution. I'm going to use these blocks. They're fairly heavy. They have a hole in the center. The lights are not very heavy at all. They're very small LED lights. And I'm going to take this number 12 stainless screw upside down once I put concrete in and put it in like an anchor. Get it nice and square, and then I'm going to actually be able to put a nut on the end and put the light on. It's a bracket that'll go through it. So the next stage is to mix up some concrete. So the concrete that I'm going to be using is actually Quickcrete. It's a super strong, high strength mix. I didn't really need that, but they had it in a 60. It's only like $3.50 a bag. This mixture, if you read the instructions, calls for 4 pints. 4 pints is equal to 2 quarts. So I like to pre-mix my water, which I have already done. And I have it just a little above the 2 quarts right now. I like mine just a little bit runnier, and if that's not enough, I'll add a little more water. But pour it in. And one of the things you should always do is wear a respirator. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off now since most of the dust is gone so I can actually talk. Normally I'd keep it on the whole time. The hole that I use is made for concrete, and it actually has holes in it to let the water and the concrete go through. And I just slowly push it forward and turn it. You keep mixing. Be sure and watch all the way to the end so you can see some of the mannequins up close. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps the channel. You keep mixing until you get all of the dry out. I like mine almost like a thick peanut butter. Most of your reaction in concrete is through chemical, not through dryness. So that's why you want to make sure that everything's wet, because the water actually starts the chemical process. Bigger projects, I use a big mixer. This is a very small one, so there's no need to bring a mixer out. So our next step is going to be to put the concrete into the blocks and then try to set in our anchors. All right, so I put on some rubber gloves. Anytime you're dealing with concrete, it's very alkaline, or even heavy mortars, outdoor mortars. They will tend to burn your hands. So you really don't want to use a lot of mortar. I'm going to try this with the shovel. I may need to get a smaller tool. We'll see how this works. I'm going to pack them. Down in there. Plenty of concrete down in the actual holes themselves, so that the bolt will have plenty to hold on to. Like I said, I probably could have done this with liquid nails. Actually, I like Loctite a little bit better than liquid nails personally.
up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving.
Well, now that I have all of the blocks up on the roof, I need to clean the threads on all of the blocks to make sure there's no concrete left. Then I'm going to actually take the brackets off of the lights so that I can mount the bracket easily and get to the holding nut. And what I'll actually use is a flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. There's your flat washer, there's the lock washer, and next comes the nut that will actually hold the entire bracket down. I only finger tighten the nut, getting it started on the threads, and then I'll use an impact driver to drive the nut all the way home. Now I reattach the light to the bracket. Next, I'll actually be attaching the wire from the light to the low voltage wire that goes all the way to the transformer. The low voltage transformer wire is actually a 2-wire system. You'll notice a split in the center of the wire. You'll have to use a razor knife to cut that wire in the middle. And on DC circuits, which is what this is, you have a positive and a negative. I use my negative as the side that has printing on the side of the wire. That way I keep it the same all the way down the line. Be very careful and do not cut on the roof. Cut on something hard like I did on the rock. You don't want to cut into a roof. Split the wire apart and pay close attention to that marking. Look for the letters. You'll see letters on the side of it which will actually indicate what I consider as my negative. There you can actually see the lettering I was talking about. Now I take the 2 wires. I consider my brown wire as my negative, my blue as my positive. That's an international wire. These were obviously sent in from China. And you take your connectors apart. You have a part that clamps onto the bottom of the wire, and you have one that has a piercer, which is going to actually pierce into the wire and make your connection. So the very first thing you're going to do is take the clamp part of the wire nut and put it on your wire. I'm looking again, making sure that I'm on my negative. I press it down tightly into the holder, and then I grab the piercing end and start screwing it together, and it forces the little needle part of the end of the piercer into the wire. Make sure that it's nice and tight. Now the next phase can be a little tricky. You've got a little thing that looks almost like a bicycle Arab line or valve. You're going to take your wire and you put the last little plastic piece over the wire so that it comes out the end, and push it down into the connector. And then when you get it down in there, you start twisting it and turning it till it tightens. You'll know that you've made a good connection when you go to pull on the wire and it doesn't pull out. You have to be a little gentle here, and you have to play with it. They are plastic threads, so they can get cross-threaded. See how I'm pulling? They do not pull out any longer. They're fully connected. What I did at the very end is I went back and put a little silicone in the top of each one of those to make sure water could not get in and cause any kind of problem. Giving you another quick view of how the top goes on, since this seems to be the biggest problem area. If you're having trouble at this section, it sometimes helps to turn the connector backwards or counterclockwise until you feel it click, and then turn right again like you're trying to connect it. I also figured out after a couple of these that if I would trim the wire just a little bit more than they sent from the factory, that it allowed the wire to connect a little easier. Okay, so this little black box is actually our low voltage DC transformer, and I'm going to show you a quick way of how to hang that on a wall so that it goes up easily without having to use a tape measure. So you see your two openings there that you put a screw or a nail into to hold it. Put a piece of tape across the top. Make sure that you line the tape up exactly with the top of each screw. As soon as you get that on there, take a pencil or a pen and mark each spot. You'll also need a level for the next stage. So I mark it very carefully, both sides, and then we simply take the tape off. And then I go up to the area that I want to place the box, and I put the tape on the outside wall exactly where I want it. This is where the level will come in. You take the level and you put it across the top and make sure that you're 100% level. Once you get that level and it's exactly the way you want it, you're going to take your screws. Now you're simply going to put your screws in the two markings that you actually made on the tape. First screw went in easy, second one I had a little bit of an issue. But as soon as that screw is inserted, all you have to do is remove the tape. Now I take the box, and if it was done correctly, it should line up perfect. And to double check, I use a level on top and make sure that it's exactly what I was wanting. Now all that's left is to take the low voltage landscape wire and attach it to the box. I didn't show a close-up of this because it's pretty simple. You just take the two wires, one attaches to the negative and one attaches to the positive.
Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night? Yeah, make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive. Yeah.